I run Spainguru.es, and you can find many experts in all the different fields that you need to move to Spain. And one of the experts that I recommend, the top expert, in fact, I have been recommending Ainhoa for many, many years. Ainhoa is the chief immigration lawyer at Sterna Abogados office. Yes, and if you search for someone from Sterna Abogados on Google, you will find the website, and you can also send them an email at info@sternaabogados.com. And of course, these are expert immigration lawyers who cover everything related to residency, citizenship, digital nomad visa, non-lucrative visa, so much more, like everything around immigrating to Spain. And of course, they collaborate with our experts. If you need, for example, help with taxes, etc., they will put you in contact or work with your experts. But yes, definitely Sterna Abogados. You can find Sterna Abogados here and in Spainguru.es, immigration lawyers, and here Sterna Abogados, and you can also find them here. And I have so many videos with Ainhoa, interviewing her about many, many different things. So yes, right. So if we move to Spain in early June 2026, this is a tax question. We will be residents in Spain for more than 186 days in the calendar year, tax year, from January 1st to December 31st. So we will need to file taxes. As I said, you don't have to. If you stay less than 183 days, you will be non-residents, really. This is if you decide to stay every single day until the end of the calendar year. If we spend a month traveling outside of Spain, do we need to inform the authorities of our time away, or just keep proof of all of our travel? Okay, so first of all, if you definitely you need to keep proof of everything, in my opinion. You need to keep proof of everything. And becoming a tax resident in Spain is not a black and white thing, but it's rather an interpretation of the tax authorities of if you comply with any of the three conditions. First is the 183 days. The second one is if your main income is from Spain, or the third one is if your family lives in Spain. So in your case, it would be by days spent in Spain physically, right? So you need to make sure that you prove that you haven't, in case that the Spanish tax authorities deem you to become a Spanish tax resident, okay, you have to prove that you haven't been outside, that you have been outside of Spain enough not to become a Spanish tax resident during that year, right? So, as you know, I'm not a tax advisor. I don't know exactly what kind of proof you can supply to make this a strong case in case that you receive a requirement from the tax authorities, okay? But definitely is important, and especially if you plan to travel within the Schengen area. Why is that? Because as you probably know, the Schengen area is a 29 European group of countries that is internally borderless. Therefore, even if now there is a new system where they scan your face and put fingerprints, but that is when you come in or out of the Schengen area. But if you drive to France or you take a flight to Germany from Spain, you will not have an immigration control. Therefore, it's going to be harder to demonstrate that you haven't been in Spain, right? So all those things, have them into account. But yes, definitely keep proof and talk to a tax advisor. You can find them on Spainguru.es if you want to make sure that you are compliant with everything and you don't get any nasty surprises. All right. Next one. Hi, Bruno. I'm a US citizen living in Belgrade. Can you just give me some rough estimate on cost of certified translations, etc.? Those bureaucratic costs. I plan to sell my home and plan to have around 50K for the first year. Hope that should be enough. I know that you mentioned about renewal, hinting that for Alicante area, one may need to show even 2x income for an LV. So you're applying for an LV. Rough estimates per page for the usual documents for sworn translations for the NLV are around 40 euros per page. You can find my recommended sworn translators on Spainguru.es, and usually you will have to sworn translate the police check. If you're coming with your spouse marriage certificate, with kids' birth certificates, the medical certificate, if it's not issued by the Spanish doctor, those kind of things. Also, some people choose to sworn translate bank statements and at least the summary pages. And yes, how do you deal with the sworn translations? I know when you apply for non-lucrative visas, what documents do you sworn translate, and how do you handle those for your clients?
So I usually translate everything because I have an in-house sworn translator, so I don't want any problems. I don't want the consulate to stop the procedure to tell me now I want the bank statements translated. But it's true that normally bank statements are not necessary because are numbers, so it's pretty much clear. But of course, all the documents that you have mentioned, all of those will not be accepted if they are not translated. The only thing that sometimes you can avoid to translate to save some money are the bank statements, of course.
I will add here a little. Maybe I am too cautious here, but uh, this person mentioned that is in Belgrade, U.S. citizen, but imagine that the bank statements are in Serbian language and not in English, because we always assume that the bank statements are in English. Therefore, you just show them. It's a commonly known language. They're not going to put too many problems. But if you had the bank statements in another language than English, probably you'll need to get your sworn translations done.
Exactly. So sometimes if the consulate, because depending on where you are applying also, because he says he is a US citizen living in Belgrade, he can choose where to apply, okay? And sometimes if the consulate is open to answer, because there are some consulates that really answer you, and there are others that never answer the emails. So you can try to ask if they are going to accept your bank statements in whatever language you have. And if not, as I said, the they will never punish you or delay your application because there is something extra. But on the other way around, if there is something that they consider missing, like the translations, the problem is that they stop the procedure, they communicate with you, and that is in the very best case, because sometimes they just deny it, which they shouldn't, okay? But there are some consulates that if they understand that they don't have all the documents, they deny it, which you can appeal, but everything gets delayed. So that's why, in my case, because I don't want mistakes, if I even have the translator in house, I translate everything. But I completely agree with Bruno. Let's see, and if it's not an English language, which is very common, is even more recommendable to translate it.
Perfect. And the second part of the question, he's talking about, he or she is talking about renewal. And this is another thing. Renewal financial thresholds for the non lucrative visa are province specific. And this person is mentioning Alicante. And if I'm not wrong, in Alicante, they ask double the amount of the initial application compared to other provinces. Um, would
This could
50K
change
for the
because
first
this
year?
is something that it doesn't say, is not mentioned in the law. Okay, so it's more from the criteria of the area, and you need to double check that a little bit before you do your renewal. But if they apply the 2 years, because they will give it to you for 2 years, that money will not be enough. So
Exactly.
if
50K is
that
not enough.
criteria, exactly, because it's not two times. So if if you have that problem wherever you are, you don't have the money, there are different ways to go, or you can appeal because it's not fair that they are treating you in a different way as they treat people in Madrid, for example, or you move at least temporarily, okay, during your your procedure, the renewal procedure, to an area in which they are asking only for 1 year of financial means. That is a way to play a little with the different criteria that they have for renewals in immigration.
Exactly, and from other Spainguru community members, they mentioned several provinces that are requiring only 1 year. You mentioned Madrid, Ainhoa. We know Valencia within the Comunidad Valenciana. We know Murcia, Almería as well, only 1 year. La Coruña, I think you mentioned in one interview as well. But this can change anytime. As you said, it's interpretations. And well, if you know that they're going to ask you double the amount and you are so close from the threshold, definitely you have to find smart ways, like moving maybe temporarily, as I know I said, getting empadronamiento in another province where they're not going to require you double the amount. So let's go with the next
Because you
question.
know that to get empadronamiento, it's not that you have to rent a place, okay? Maybe you have a friend, a family, someone who is living in that city that they are asking for less. So you can do that move for the 3 months of the process that can be the renewal. You know that you can apply for 2 months before to 3 after, and that they should accept the renewal in 3 months. If in 3 months they don't answer, it should be approved, which is very good. This.
And also the up here is mentioning, like, I'm planning to sell my home and I plan to have 50K. Well, remember to budget your costs, because you're going to have to live in Spain. You're going to have to buy groceries, rent a place. You will have to potentially pay taxes at some point. You will have to maybe go back to Belgrade to arrange something. So you have to really work on your budget, because you seem to be a little bit too close from the threshold, and it's always better to have a cushion in case anything goes wrong. Now, if you permit me, we go with the next question. We are moving from the United States. How do we verify entry with the new electronic entry system? Will the stamp still be an option when we land in Spain? What is your take on this, Ainhoa?
So really, this is already designed. If they are not going to stamp you, that they are stamping, okay? But if they are not stamping you the passport, there is always something called declaration of entrance. In fact, we always do this with our clients that come from another country in Europe, because sometimes you don't fly directly, okay? So sometimes you enter, I don't know, Paris, Madrid. So in order to do whatever permit in Spain, you need to prove that you are in Spain. You know that not every permit you can be applied from Spain, but a lot of them can be applied from Spain. So in case you don't have the stamp, you always can do in the next 72 hours the declaration of entrance. I always recommend to do the declaration of entrance in the same airport. There is a police station in the airport already when you enter Spain, okay? And you ask them to stamp you the passport, okay? And that's how you get a declaration of entrance. Of course, it should be in the system, okay, with the new system. But in case you want to be double sure and don't be afraid of having a mistake in the system, you can always ask for a declaration of entrance.
Exactly. Declaración de entrada, and also recommendation from other Spainguru community members is that you go to the station that is closest to the border if you enter by land or at the airport, because many police stations, if you just go anywhere else in Spain, and you're like, oh, damn, I need to get the declaración de entrada, and you go to any police station, maybe they haven't heard of this, right? But
yeah, they are very
at
lost.
the airports,
Okay,
they know this,
exactly. That's why I
this.
recommend normally at the airport or close to the border, because even that every police station should do it, they are really some of them are completely lost. They don't know what you are talking about. So don't get very stressed. It's normal. They will like talk to their bosses and all that and find out how they do it. But if you want to avoid like a little bit of that moment that everyone is lost, then go to the ones that are next to the border in the airport or in the road, because they always know what to do.
Very well. I was trying to share an article that I have about completing the Declaración de Entrada, but I recently translated Spainguru to Spanish, and I don't know how to go to English, okay. So everything is in Spanish. But basically, you have an article here. My recommendation is you print out this paper. You can download the PDF, Declaración de Entrada. You print it out, you fill it up, and when you go to arrive to the airport or cross the border, you go to the police station and you say, like, please stamp this on, and you will get the official entry date in Spain, in case you didn't get any other proof of entry. Because as Ainhoa was saying, they are still rolling out this new entry exit system. The rollout is thought to be ended by April 2026. So it's going to take several months. Even, airports, there are many airports or ports of entry into Spain, and some of them, they will have it fully rolled out, while others will not have it until the end of that period. So depending on your luck, really, it's going to happen one thing or another. As Ainhoa said, safest bet is to bring your Declaración de Entrada, make it stamped by a police station, and you're good to go. All right, let's go with the next one. I am a Brazilian with a residence permit in a different EU country. I would like to apply for the digital nomad visa in Spain as a freelance worker and move to Spain. Because of the EU residence, I do not have entry stamps when entering the EU and when I travel to Spain. Do I still need proof of entry into Spain for my application?
Exactly. This is exactly what we were talking about. Okay, I say maybe if you don't fly directly, but also if you are coming from another country in Europe, because you are inside Schengen, they are not going to stamp you the visa, the stamp you the passport. And then is in that moment when you have to do a declaration of entrance. Okay, so you travel by plane or by car, by whatever means you travel to Spain, and you go to the police station to get the declaration of entrance. So what they need is to prove how you enter. If you can buy plane the tickets, but if you can buy road, maybe the bus ticket or the gas tickets, whatever that shows that really you made the trip, okay, in the last 72 hours, because that is the limit when you can do the declaration of entrance. What happens for all of you that maybe you did enter 72 hours, more than 72 hours ago, and you didn't know this? Maybe you need to go back to France, wherever, the country that you are living or you are coming from, and coming again to Spain to do the declaration of entrance. If you haven't done it in the next 72 hours, how you fix it? You go back to whatever country outside the Spain and you come in again. It can be in Schengen, of course. It's not going to be a super expensive strategy, but it's a way for you to get a declaration of entrance and apply for a nomad or a student permit or whatever you want to apply from Spain, because it's allowed to apply from Spain for some kind of permits.
Next question. Is it correct that if our translated and apostille marriage certificate is only valid for 90 days, and the FBI background check, is it valid for 90 or 180 days? I'm just trying time everything correctly.
Okay. Yes, this is correct. Of course, the criminal records, they are allowing for 6 months because there was a ruling from the Supreme Court saying this. So, but this is for permits, okay, that you do in Spain in grandes empresas, okay. So this is for nomads, highly qualified workers. So there is an office that allows for the 6 months. But if you are applying for the non-lucrative visa, it has to be for 3 months ago. So depends for the of the application and the offers that goes, okay? And the merit certificate, yes, it should be recent, but the other way around. Sometimes you find that you are flexible, and sometimes it is for 5 months ago and they accept it. But it won't be also strange if they want it updated, okay?
By the way, if you want to join my non-lucrative visa webinar that I have every 15 days, and also I send you a recording for this webinar, you can do it. Next one is in, I think, in less than 1 week, I believe. I'm not very, very sure. Here it is. Yes, explore all webinars. Let me just show you here, non-lucrative visa. And here it is. Yes, November 19th, right? And we go through all this. Now, let's go with the next question. Am I a U.S. citizen working for a U.S. company but can work remotely? I am interested in living in Barcelona. Which visa do I apply for?
Well, this is very easy. So normally you will do the nomad, okay? The nomad is a permit designed exactly for this. When you are an employee of a company outside Spain, or you have your own company outside Spain, or you are a freelance and you have clients outside Spain, the most common residency that you will apply is the nomad. The nomad has several advantages. You can do it from here, from Spain, so you can apply from here. It resolves in 20 days. Your family can be included, and your wife or husband can work also for Spain. So the nomad permit seems perfect for you if you earn enough money. This is around 2,500 euros per month during the last 3 months. With, of course, every person has their own situation. It's not so automatic, but it seems it's going to be a clear nomad.
And again, I have
and it's going to be resolved for 3 years, which is very comfortable also.
This week I have in 3 days a webinar about this visa. If you want to join, it is absolutely free. So let's go with the next question.
You have webinars for everything, Bruno.
Everything important. Is it better to apply for a visa here in Mexico, or should I do it from my home of record in San Antonio, Texas?
So depending if it's a visa that you can apply from Spain, well, a residency permit, because we say visa when you apply from outside, okay? And it's directly a residency permit when you apply from Spain. So, for example, the nomad, as we were talking, I always recommend it to do it from Spain if you can, because consulates are very busy normally, and sometimes they even ask for more things that they ask in Spain. For example, the NIE, the NIE. Normally in the consulates they ask you for a NIE in order to apply for a nomad. In Spain they don't ask you for that. When they resolve your application, they already give you the NIE. So, and for example, the consulate give it for 1 year. The residency, if you apply directly in Spain, they give it to you for 3 years. If you come to Spain, you apply directly whenever you want. You apply because it's online. At the consulate, you depend on an appointment to get an appointment. That sometimes is difficult. So that's why I normally recommend to do it from Spain, but also depends on your situation, of course.
It depends on the visa, because the OP doesn't really clarify what type of visa is. Maybe
exactly.
They are referring to the non-lucrative visa, and there's actually no option to apply from within Spain. But but this person thinks.
But this one is asking Mexico or San Antonio. You can do, sorry, maybe it's a non-lucrative. So, because you can only do it from the consulate. So you can
It will
choose
be Houston
wherever you
consulate
have
in this
a
case.
residency permit. So in Mexico, if you have a residency permit, you can do it in Mexico or you can do it in your home country in the US. You can choose in both places.
Exactly. And here, coming back to, digital nomad visa, best way for US citizens to apply. Here I have video and content about all the advantages of applying from Spain versus doing it from the States. And if you want to know more about your specific consulates, because as Ainhoa probably can confirm, that every consulate is its own kingdom, even its own planet. They interpret the rules very, very differently. If you go here to guides and blog, visa guides, non-lucrative visa guide, we go to NLV consulates, and here we have US consulates, for example. Here you can choose your consulate, right? You can see here. And in this case, it would be Houston, because Houston, Texas, it's within the area that Houston serves. Here you have all the official links to Houston specific requirements. Now Houston works with BLS as of this year. And very interesting, you have first-hand experiences from users who are applying from this consulate. I have to say, Mexico, if you have the option to apply from Mexico, I can tell you it's going to be easier already.
Yeah, I also have to tell you,
for
I'm
the
right now in
NLV.
Mexico. Yeah, I have to tell you, so right now in Mexico, I have a lot of clients in Mexico. Suddenly, Ciudad de Mexico has become very slow, for example.
Oh,
But there are other consulates. For example, Guadalajara, I have an approval in 2 weeks, but it's not that you can choose. They ask you for your address in Mexico, okay? In Mexico, or the same applies in the US. You cannot choose consulates. You need to show your address in that country.
right. Here I have a first-hand experience for Mexico City. Is that your case? And yes, this person was reporting. This person didn't talk about speed, but they seem to be quite chilled about the interpretation of the rules, and especially compared to Houston, that seemed to be probably the hardest consulate in the States in terms of like requirements that other consulates are not asking, like rentals, quitting your job before applying, for example. They're quite strict about that in Houston, with some denials about it, etc., etc. But yeah, definitely read the first-hand experiences and try to compare if you have the option and versatility, and potentially decide where it's best to apply from. Now let's go with the next one. Raul, I have dual citizenship, Mexico, USA. I'm retired from the US Army, and I'm also 100% disabled veteran. I received my retirement from the US Army as well as my pension from Veteran Affairs. I am currently residing in Mexico. I mentioned all this so you understand my questions. Thank you for the context. It's also very, very welcome. It is better to apply for a visa here in Mexico, or should I do it from my home of record, San Antonio? Well, this is thank you for providing the context that we were missing before. Yeah, so we already answered the question, I think. Raul, I understand there's some type of agreement between Spain and the US where military retirement and VA disability is not taxed. Is this correct? So, again, I'm not a tax advisor, but yes, there is a double taxation agreement between Spain and the US, UK, Canada, Australia, and many, many more countries. And they all of them say that public or government pensions are not taxed in the country of tax residency, but in the origin country. Okay, the thing is, if the authorities in Spain will consider your pension to be falling into this category, you need to check this with a tax advisor. Yes, like people write me like every week or every 2 weeks, like, Bruno, I've been a teacher in Boston for 25 years. Now I'm going to retire. Am I going to be taxed in Spain? And my answer is, this is the rule, but I cannot tell you for sure whether your specific pension will be considered as such. Therefore, it's always important that you work with a recommended tax advisor who is used to deal with people in your same situation coming from the US. And you can find them on spainguru.es, right? Always check it. Consult for 40 minutes, make sure that that's going to happen, potentially run a simulation of your taxes. Once you move to Spain, of course, that will have an extra cost, more than one initial consultation, but definitely that's the way to go. At least immigration, at least taxes, always consult with experts before even taking the decision to move to Spain. But if I had to guess, if I had to bet, no tax advice, I would assume that your type of pension would not be taxed in Spain. That would be my
I
best
think so.
guess.
I also not an expert, but because of the non-double taxation agreement and because what I see commonly with the tax advisor, I don't think it would be taxed, but check with the tax advisor, yes.
That's a very good way to put it, much shorter than what I answered. But yes, definitely, that's the way to go. Now let's go with the next one. Mi suegra, okay, so that is my mother-in-law, came from Galicia and has shares in her bank for 3 different companies. Is it easier for her to sell her shares and transfer money to my wife and her brother, or to transfer the shares so they can sell at a later date? Who manages the sell or transfer of shares?
But what for this? I don't understand, like the final, in order to what? To someone to show financial means or what?
Or maybe to avoid capital gains tax or something. I don't know. Really, I don't understand the question very well. And it seems to be quite specific. It's the first time that I hear such a question. So it would be great if you provided a little bit more context. What do you want to accomplish? Are we talking about some kind of visa? Are we talking about tax implications? Whatever you can mention will help us answer it. How hard is it to get a religious visa?
It's not hard. Okay, these kind of visas go very well. Okay, no, it's not hard. You just have to meet. There is a, I don't know if you have the hojas informativas there, but there is a hoja informativa which says what you need to show that you are part of a religious group, and it's not hard at all. There are a lot of people with this kind of visa in Spain.
Maybe we should do a video about this. Ainhoa.
Okay. Let's put it in the list for the next video.
Let's go with the next one. My wife has a German passport, so I am applying for a long-term residency visa in Spain as spouse of an EU citizen. We were married in the USA, so as far as Germany is concerned, she is still single in Germany. Will the Spanish authorities require us to register our marriage with the German consulate to accept it?
No, they used to do it. Maybe you have read this in some information from the past, because yes, they were very tough with this, but now they've become very much flexible. You just show your marriage certificate in the US and it will be accepted. But in addition, it's recommendable that you start registering in Germany, okay? But no, you will see, you will not have a problem. They are accepting everything now. You know that this permit you can do it in Spain, right? From Spain. Yes, for you to know that.
So before the question about the mother-in-law selling shares, this person has provided some extra context, and it is to avoid inheritance tax if she dies.
This is something in taxes I cannot answer properly. Maybe you can, I don't know, maybe you can send these questions to the tax advisors that you collaborate with.
Yes, in fact, you can find tax advisors. They have to be specialists in wills and inheritance and gift tax. They have to be specialists in this field, not only just merely tax advisors, but also having a deep knowledge of the legal implications, especially
Inheritance and international. So both,
yeah.
oh, everything.
Yeah, especially if you have cross-border situations, and the different countries have different rules for inheritance laws. This is very specialized knowledge, which of course I don't have, and it's important to go with them before doing any sale, if possible, and
But
structuring it
from what
correctly.
I heard, again, I'm not a specialist. I think it's better to do it in live. Okay, but double check, because I see everyday immigration and I don't see every day during 8 hours taxes.
All right, I think we made it through all the different questions we had. Let me see if I'm missing any question. I don't have any more questions right now.
Okay. Do you
Yes, please
want?
do
We
a
have
video for
some
the
more
religious
time
visa.
left. Excuse me?
Yes, Samantha says, please do a video for the religious visa and
We
the
will.
requirements. I'm not familiar with this visa, definitely. So one question here coming. Let me see. I'm retiring from the US government and will be receiving a pension. It is my understanding that Spain will not tax my pension, only the US will. My question is, will Spain tax my US government for one? The US government calls it the thrift saving plans. I don't know. This is a good question.
Taxes, but I don't think so. Okay, there is this with this non-double taxation agreement. So
I mean, this
normally,
is
as you see, immigration and taxes are very related. We always say to do like both consultations and be like communicating the immigration lawyer with the tax lawyer, because um, sometimes you have different permits that you can apply for. For example, and depending on the permit, your tax advisor can do an strategy with one that cannot do it with the other. So that is why it's very important to have all the information, because the other way around, maybe your tax advisor asks you, okay, create a company in order to have this tax benefit and all that, but maybe with your immigration permit you cannot create that company and be the administrator of that company. So that is why it's very important to be always coordinated. As you see, there are a lot of things involved. Uh, mm, what the immigration allows you, maybe it's not what your tax advisor is expecting or it has in his head in order to do your best strategy. That's why it's good to know all the options, because sometimes you know that one option is applicable for you and you do that option, but maybe another option, immigration option, will be more beneficial for you in the tax aspects.
what I also hear from Spainguru's community members is, some surprises about taxes. When people say, "Am I gonna be taxed on my savings?" for example, yes, but they're just thinking about like income tax, yes. But there is also, for example, the regional wealth tax. There is also the informative form 720, yes, which is not a tax proper, but it is information that you are giving to the Spanish tax authorities, and they may take their own conclusions about whether you are generating income, whether your net worth is enough to be over the threshold for wealth tax. Yes. And also, this is the first thing, like we think in terms of income tax, but we forget about assets based taxes and about the 720 form. This is one thing. The other thing is how Spanish authority consider the different solutions or different structures that you have in the states. For example, USA trusts. They're a wonderful structure that works marvelously in the states, but in Spain it could be considered to be like a normal company.
Yes, they don't. It doesn't exist in our legislation.
And there are a few things like when we say, like, for example, 401 government, thrift savings plan, you name it. Like, there's a huge list of, let's say, products or savings plans, etc., in the States that in Spain they just don't exist. And the Spanish tax authorities will have a specific interpretation of those. So it's important to work with someone who understands what that interpretation is. Yes, and therefore with someone who has worked with other people that have had those kinds of saving plans, just to expect the right type of interpretation by the Spanish tax authorities.
For example, there like another question, no? Since I'm applying as a spouse of a European Union citizen, not digital nomad or non-lucrative visa, will we be able to apply for Beckham law? We've always filed jointly in the US. So this is a good example of what I'm talking about. So as a family member of a European Union citizen, you have a lot of flexibility. So yes, if you can do the strategy in order to fill into the categories that can apply for the Beckham law, because one of the first requirements for the Beckham law is to work, okay? And there are different kinds of work. You can be an employee or you can be with a company, but a company with real activity. You can have your own company with real activity. So the good thing about being a family member is that it gives you all the rights. It gives you the right to have a company. It gives you the right to be an employee. So it's going to be easier for you to fill into the category that will allow you to apply to a Beckham law. Of course, if you come as a family member and you don't work, then you cannot apply for the Beckham law. But if you come and start working right away, then yes, you can apply for the Beckham law, which this is taxes. But as I said, I'm always in the meetings.
Yes, there are many requirements. This is we're talking about just one of them, but there are a few requirements or conditions. For example, you shouldn't have been a resident in Spain in the previous 5 years. It used to be 10, but now it's 5. But if that was the case, for example, you will not be unfortunately eligible for the Beckham law. There are also not
Exactly.
only requirements but certain considerations as well, because the Beckham law, tax advisors will tell you it has higher administrative burden. And for example, you don't have allowances or deductions. So if you're moving with family, with kids, etc., and you would have access to certain allowances or deductions because of your situation under the general regime. With the Beckham law, you don't, right? So what tax advisor said, if you're making less than 55,000 euros per year, it doesn't make too much sense to apply for this Beckham law, right? So this, not only the requirements, but also certain considerations that tax advisors will tell you right away whether it is a good fit for you to apply for this special tax regime, which certainly has very great perks, like 24 tax flat
What I
rate.
see that people are very interested in Beckham law is especially because of the worldwide tax that we have in Spain. So the good thing about the Beckham law, of course, as Bruno says, you cannot put like certain expenses. Okay, it's just like the 21% tax to your income, and you cannot say have this expense and this other expense. But what people try to avoid is if you have a lot of properties, lot of income outside Spain, that is the main goal of the Beckham for the majority of my clients. What I see is not to be taxed on all that is outside Spain.
Yes, income from outside of Spain is not taxable except employment income. You don't have to declare 720 form. You don't have to declare overseas assets. You don't have to pay Spanish regional wealth tax as well. These are very good advantages
These
on
are
this
what
special.
really try is so why is so interested for for wealthy people, especially.
Many questions about taxes today. Actually,
Yes.
tomorrow, if I'm not wrong, I have the Spanish taxes webinar. Let me just share my screen here. Move to Spain webinar, Spanish taxes. Yes, it is tomorrow, November 11th at 12 p.m. You have to wake up early, unfortunately, if you live in California. But I always share the recording for everyone who registered to the webinar. I send you the recording to your email. And of course, if you see there on top, you will find a button to subscribe to Spainguru's newsletter. I always send a newsletter on Monday where I feature the top discussions on Spainguru's groups, social media, the most watched video of the week. I featured investigation blog posts. All my recommended partners are on the newsletter, so it is free. You can opt out anytime, and you receive it every Monday. And I keep you updated about everything related about moving to Spain, visas, taxes, etc. And of course, new webinars like this one. This is a new format. This is a new webinar. The first time that we are actually launching this. I'm very proud and happy that Ainhoa is here with us today. It's very good to have an expert here in the webinars. So yes, hopefully we will continue making more of these. Do you have any more questions? Here I have many people actually connected, and maybe you want to ask anything else. Otherwise, also, if you think that the information that we're sharing with you today, there's a button there on top, and you can leave a review on Trustpilot. Yes, if you
And now
think
there
that
is
we are
another
adding value.
question.
All right, let me see. Again, unfortunately, if we don't write a question mark at the end, but this one has it, so we can display it. Fantastic. When applying for an NLV, non-lucrative visa, is it better to do it with Mexico-Colombia documents like passports? My wife is a Colombian U.S. citizen, so dual citizen. I'm a Mexican with Mexican U.S. citizenship. Important, it has to be by origin later on to benefit from the 2-year fast track. I've seen comments which lead me to believe we can and should apply with Mexican Colombian documents, which provide faster route to Spanish citizenship. Can we apply with our Mexican Colombian documents if we apply from Texas? What do you recommend? As mentioned before, we're currently residing in Mexico, but could come to San Antonio, Texas, and apply from there.
So yes, it's recommendable to do it already with your Mexican or Colombian passport. That is the recommendable thing. It's going to be very clear for immigration. But I've done hundreds of applications of U.S. citizens that had dual citizenship, and they came up with the U.S. passport, and then after 2 years we could apply for the Spanish passport, showing that they had by origin, like Bruno said, another citizenship like the Mexican or the Colombian. But if you can come already with the Mexican or Colombian passport, like your visa in that passport, I think it's clearer and more it's recommendable. You can avoid any mistakes of the Ministerio de Justicia, the Ministry of Justice, checking that you had also a second nationality. Even when they issue the law, okay, for the passport, for the Spanish passport, they said in the law it said that you can only get the advantage of the 2 years if you have the visa with that passport that gave you that shortcut for the 2 years for the Spanish nationality. But they are not applying that. They are being flexible. Even if you come with your U.S. Passport, the visa in your U.S. passport, they are giving you the Spanish passport after 2 years when you show the Mexican, Colombian, or whatever Ibero-American country passport you have. But if you want to keep in the safe side, do it already with your Mexican or Colombian passport.
What I understand is that they don't let you choose. If you apply from Texas, they will ask you to do it with the American passport. They won't let you do it with the Hispano-American or Ibero-American passport. They won't
For
let you.
example,
Right?
for example, in LA, In LA, they allow me to show both passport and stamp me the visa in the other passport. But as we said, every consulate has like their own kingdom, their own rules, their own criteria. So I think if they apply from Mexico because they are living in Mexico, it's perfect and no doubts.
There's also other things that Spainguru community members report is that there are some differences in the names, in the surnames, because Spanish alphabet has letters like ñ, it has tildes, the orthographic accent, these kind of things that American passports, for example, they just have a surname, a family name, that's it. But maybe you have double surnames, double family names for Ibero-American passports, and then there's some mismatch between the names. Yes, because if you apply with the American passport, maybe your name is Rodriguez Perez, but in the American passport you are just Rodriguez. The Perez doesn't appear. And then you come to Spain, you get your residency from the non-lucrative residency, and then you want to apply, and they see, whoa, wait a second, this person is using a Mexican passport with that Rodriguez Perez, not just Rodriguez. These kind of things, these mismatches, people report having problems all the time. They will end up overcoming them. They will avoid these problems, and they will apply for the citizenship anyways. But it is better if you can do it directly with the Ibero-American passport, just to avoid these small headaches.
Exactly. Yes, it makes things clearer for immigration or for the Ministry of Justice, and that makes things better because you imagine they are doing so many applications that if something is not so automatic to see for them, they get slower.
Yeah, and Raul here is also giving us more context. We're discovering the case of Raul here. My wife has my last name in the US, but her birth name in her Colombian passport. You see, it's not even a mismatch of like double last like family names, but it's a full mismatch. I understand that her last name has absolutely nothing to do with yours, so it will be a true mismatch, right?
Yeah, exactly. But in any case, this is very common. If you choose to do it in Mexico, they will just focus in the passport and in the marriage certificate. Okay. If if you do it in the U.S., of course, they will get focused in the U.S. passport with that name because they don't ask for a birth certificate. Okay, just for you to know the birth certificate only they need them for the children. I'm telling you so you can save some money in documents if people like don't want to have so many documents. This is a question that they always do to me. They don't need birth certificate from you, just from your children. That's for the non-lucrative. Now you know that only up to 18. So if they are older than 18, they cannot do the non-lucrative as a family member.
I also have on screen here also an interesting article. Again, I did a video with Ainhoa because Sterna Abogados, the firm of
Yeah.
Ainhoa, got a ruling that is related to Spanish citizenship, because in the initial months of this year, the Ministry of Justice was denying citizenship applications for dual passport holders. In this case, it was another Ibero-American citizenship,
Yeah.
and they said that since this person got the Ibero-American passport after obtaining the U.S. citizenship, the Ibero-American citizenship was not obtained by origin, which is important to have it by origin as per, if I'm not wrong, Article 22nd of the Civil Code. Yes,
Yeah.
this one. It needs to be by origin. So to benefit for the 2 year fast track. Then after this ruling, the judge said, no, it doesn't matter that he got the passport from the Ibero-American country after the citizenship. What it matters is the rules of that specific country, of what that country considers to be a citizen by origin, and Spain will honor those rules.
It seems that there was any misunderstanding inside the Ministry of Justice because we already have gone to this appeal and won the appeal, but I've been getting some others, okay? For these people that came with the US passport, I have another passport and they apply after 2 years. So don't panic if this is happening to you. The only thing is that you have to go to the court, okay? So sometimes if you are going to use a professional, make sure it's a lawyer because these kind of things can only be done by a lawyer going to the court. And it's happening. I already corrected corrected. I won the appeal and but I have gotten several clients getting a denial and I'm going to the court for them. Um, Normally this won't happen, but it's happening. Don't panic, but that's why I'm telling if you can to make things clear, come with your Latin American passport.
We have a question here as well from a dual passport holder, a nationality that also benefits from the 2-year fast track, Brazil. As a Brazilian citizen, I understand I qualify for Spanish citizenship after 2 years of
Yes.
Spanish residency. That's correct. I'm applying for digital nomad visa while in Spain. Are there any other requirements I should keep in mind or be careful with, similar to the no gaps in health insurance you mentioned before? And when does the clock start for the application?
So, well, in your case, it's going to start very quickly because you know it's going to be granted in 20 days. So, whenever it's granted, there it's starting your 2 years period. Okay. You will get the resolution with the date. That is the date when when it started, and after 2 years, you know, in your case, you will have to do the Spanish exam because all the Spanish speaking countries don't have to do the language exam, but in Brazil you have to do the language exam in addition to the cultural exam, of course. No gaps. Do you have any recommendation for him, Bruno? It's quite clear. Just don't go out a lot. You know that there is this criteria. It's not in the law, but it's a tough criteria that they always follow. Not
90
to be
days.
outside Spain 3 months per year. The law says Spain. We never know now with the new controls if they can know if you are in another country in the Schengen area. Normally, no. In my case, all my clients only have been like check if they go out of Schengen. Don't go out of Schengen more than 3 months because if you are a nomad, sometimes nomads keep traveling a lot. Okay, so be careful with that.
New question from another person. Since I am applying as a spouse of a EU citizen, not digital nomad or non-lucrative visa, will we be able to apply for the Beckham law? Wait a second, this is not exactly the question.
But I already answered. I said that this give you the
This
right, the
one.
family member give you the right to work, so you have a good strategy to get the Beckham law.
Sorry, my bad. This is the question.
Ah.
According to the article Bruno just showed on the screen, someone born in Brazil can obtain a Spanish citizenship in 2 years. Yes. Would that be better route for me, Brazilian American citizen, than applying as a spouse of a EU citizen?
Well, because you are mentioning different things, okay? So one thing is your residency permit, okay? Your residency permit, you can get it with whatever path you have, okay? As a European Union citizen or a Brazilian citizen doing a nomad, doesn't matter. But what gives you the right to get the Spanish passport in 2 years is that you are Brazilian, but you can have the family member as a European Union citizen because you are married, you can have that permit, and after 2 years, apply for the Spanish passport because you are Brazilian, okay?
Let's see. Okay, thanks. Very good. So we don't have more questions right now. As you can see, Ainhoa has a very, very deep knowledge about anything related to immigration, specifically residency, citizenship, 2-year fast track, dual citizenship, especially for every nationals from the Americas continent. She worked with hundreds of, well, thousands probably. And she did personally my nationality application. I'm originally from Argentina. Now I'm a proud Spaniard, thanks in part for Ainhoa as well.
You're
And of
welcome.
course, if you can,
Thank
if you
you
want
for
to
the
reach out
trust.
to, if you want to reach out to her and have a consultation and potentially hire their team, her team to help you out with your citizenship application or anything related to immigration, could be pareja de hecho, could be helping you out with anything related to coming to live to Spain. You can always go on Spainguru.es, go to the services page, and you will see that my first recommendation is uh, Sterna Abogados, and you can find her directly or just Google um, Sterna Abogados right here, and you can go to the first link, and you can see the email, the contact, and everything that they do. I really appreciate everyone joining today. I don't know if you want to add anything else, Ainhoa.
No, I think it's clear. We can do another one whenever you think you have a space. And we can keep answering questions or be focusing in one of the residencies if they have more interest in one of the residencies. You let me know the feedback of the people and we can adapt for the next webinar. Okay?
But you promise, and I got you recorded. You promise we're gonna record about
Yes.
the religious visa, which is a visa that,
Yes,
to
but
be
we
honest,
can
I
do
don't know much
religious
about it.
and another, so we can be focusing two, for example.
Well, perfect. I take your word, and thank you so much, Ainhoa, for
You're
joining
welcome.
today. Thank you. Thanks everyone else to join. I apologize for my lack of knowledge on this tool and the initial technical issues, but in the end, everything came out well. I really appreciate everyone joining. You will receive a recording latest tomorrow evening, latest probably tomorrow
Sounds
morning, and you can watch this recording anytime, for free on YouTube. And of course, if you want to subscribe to Spainguru's YouTube channel, if you're watching this video on YouTube and you want to give it a like, it really, really helps with the algorithm. Also helps everyone else finding Spainguru in the sea of content creators. And definitely, I will be really, really appreciative. Thank you so much, and I see you around very, very soon. Thank you,
Thank
Ainhoa.
you, Bruno, for organizing this.
Bye bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Oh, and one more thing. Apparently, YouTube says you're gonna love watching this video right here. I think you should watch it.